It must have been planned at some point that Compost Awareness Week ends in Mother's Day, because really it's also fitting, and I really have to thank my mother for making those connections for me to the soil when she used to send me out in the yard and throw the organic waste down in the garden and saying, go and stomp that in. And so I would just get out there and stomp with my little rubber boots, and most of my rubber boots would end up stuck in the mud, and she would have to go in after me and get my boots out, and then a few steps later get my socks out, and then take me in and wash my feet. Anyway, Heather and I were sharing some memories of childhood and growing up in Edmonton with lots of fresh food. So I guess we can start there. So it's a pleasure to celebrate Compost Awareness Week in Edmonton here at the beautiful City Hall. And the fact that you're asking just an old gardener with dirty fingernails to come up here and talk to you is really proof of the city's commitment to sustainability and waste reduction. So International Composting Awareness Week builds awareness of composting and the many benefits of compost. Around the world, governments, institutions, community groups, and families are being asked to consider for a moment that their garbage is more than just a disgusting, smelly bag of filth. And to demonstrate that, I brought along Bokashi Bob. Bokashi Bob has been my office mate at work, and it's about 9 weeks old now, a collection of organic waste that includes some chicken and pork and a lot of vegetables and some pet hair, and just quite a wonderful mix of things. And Bokashi Bob has become part of the family, and in fact inspired a co-worker of mine to get started on Bokashi Betty in the next cubicle. So we're having a little family of organic waste pits in our office. People are also realizing that their garbage is a valuable resource. It's hard to believe it, but amid the muck is a material that's important to your family and to your home's health. A material so valuable that when handled with care, it returns a cornucopia of nutrients back to the soil as nature intended. During Compost Awareness Week, there are opportunities to learn about making and using compost, and also to discover the value hidden in our organic waste. So what is organic waste? It's basically just dead plant material. Most folks would say it's dirty and disgusting, and they would be right, but it's also a bag of stored nutrients. It's a resource. The place for organic waste is not the landfill, but in the soil. For the past dozen years or so, that's just where your garbage has gone, to become compost at Edmonton's co-composting facility. Co-composting means waste from a number of sources, including EPCOR's wastewater treatment facility in Gold Bar, are commingled or mixed together. It's an amazing facility and North America's largest stainless steel building. So it seems oversimplified, but our commitment to the environment starts with the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Though our processes include some waste material conversion to an energy source, Edmonton is committed to the 3 R's first. This will ensure a balance between environmental sustainability and economic prosperity. Edmontonians spoke loudly in the 80s that we're not willing to mortgage our future for short-term gains. And that's why we've built something truly remarkable in the years since. And that approach is evident here in this building. In addition to collecting blue bin materials and high-grade paper for recycling, just below where we are sitting, City Hall staff have set up a composting operation which is remarkable in its design and its impact. Combining hot, fast composting techniques with the gentle hands-on approach of a worm bin, City Hall staff combine their lunchroom and landscape materials in rather large quantities to produce high-quality compost, which is used right here on site. The process not only reduces waste, but also provides an opportunity for City Hall school children to observe the magic of nature at work. It gives them a chance to get their hands in the dirt and hunt down those squirmy wormies. The red wigglers are found, gently held, compared, stroked, named, and then returned to the worm bin. And the compost gets spread on the landscaped areas outside. Dozens of Edmontonian kids can visit downtown during our festival season, point at the flowers, and tell their parents, "I grew those." Basically, compost does 3 things. First, when we want to lighten our soil, to open up space for root growth, and to let the rain penetrate, we could buy peat moss, but the carbon in compost will do the job just as well. And you can't beat the price of autumn leaves, which includes delivery. Carbon in compost lightens clay soils, binds sandy soils, and acts like a sponge to hold moisture, which means you water less, and any fertilizers you apply will be held in the root zone, making them more effective. Second, if we want to grow big, healthy plants, we can buy fertilizers, but compost is a complete, slow-release source for all the nutrients your plants need. The nutrients add color and flavor to make our veggies taste great. And this photo, I was at this photo shoot, and this boy, this is the first time he'd ever tasted garden peas. He and his family had no idea what they tasted like. And after that, they were just anxious to taste every plant in my garden and absolutely wiped me out. I didn't get any peas that year, but the kids sure enjoyed it, I have to tell you. Finally, like manure, compost is alive. It's the life in the soil that brings nutrients to the root zone where plants can easily absorb them. Like yogurt, compost is a sweet treat for the soil. Compost is the only product that does all of these things, and there's only one reason to use it, because it works. The City of Edmonton makes garbage easy. Every time you throw something away, you can be sure it's handled in a safe and consistent way, and that the organic material in your garbage will become compost. When you stop to think about all those trucks and all the energy used to make that miracle happen, we can certainly make the case for doing some of the work ourselves. A compost system of one type or another can certainly fit into most people's lifestyles. And there really is a system for everyone, from lasagna gardening to composting toilets. More Edmontonians are growing food in their yard. That's an opportunity to trench compost. Just bury your waste in open soil. That's an easy method of composting, but residents who want to explore other options can take the next step and take a workshop. The easiest way to start is with the compost bin and a workshop from the John Jansen Nature Centre in Fort Edmonton Park. Toss in some browns, that's the dead plant material, and mix in your green kitchen scraps, and compost will happen. And Edmontonians love to worm compost. There's a workshop for that as well. And if anyone wants to take home some worms, I do have a little worm compost bin down here at the front. It's so simple, anyone can do it. Just mix the dead plant material, the browns, with fresh green yard waste and kitchen scraps. Keep the pile moist, stir it occasionally. Before you know it, you've created compost. All it takes is a weekly visit to your bin to keep things working well. As you gain experience in composting, you'll learn how to speed up the process and adjust your mix or push the limits. Your compost bin becomes a hobby and maybe even a passion. The trick is to keep the bin moist, about as damp as a wrung-out sponge, so that when you give it a squeeze, you can feel the cool moisture between your fingers. The moisture will get it working fast. If you want to experience that for yourself, just reach into this bin of compost made here at City Hall and give it a squeeze, and you'll just feel how good it feels to have that moisture rolling through your fingers. So give it a stir every so often to add fresh air to the mix, and that keeps it fresh. The fun part is watching how the different materials decay quickly or slowly and seeing all the cool bugs that visit your pile. Definitely a kid magnet, but fun for grown-ups too. You may be surprised to hear that the Waste Management Services area has over 200 active volunteers. They participate in all sorts of 3R initiatives, like promoting reuse at community events and at the reuse centre just across the street. If something goes wrong in your compost bin that you can't explain or correct, Master Composter volunteers are resources in your community. They're willing to come out and act as compost doctors, make a house call, diagnose the problem, correct it, and get your bin back to good health. You can continue to compost year-round. Trench composting is easy and makes use of all those leaves by just burying waste in the autumn and letting them compost over the winter while you're curled up inside next to the fire with a cozy cup of hot cocoa. There are some benefits to our long winter, and trench composting is one of them. Winter brings the challenge of where to store fresh waste until you can compost it easily. So if your bin is full and you're storing those kitchen scraps, sooner or later, they're going to start to smell, right? Well, thanks to bokashi and the Japanese, we have another option. It's worry-free decomposition. Bokashi pickles waste and inhibits odors and then speeds up decomposition once the material is buried in the soil or in a compost bin. It really works great. And maybe we have the volunteer who'd like to smell this 9-week-old rotting mix. Oh, excellent! We have someone stepping up to do that. Woohoo! 9 weeks of rotting bokashi. Bob, what do you think?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Pretty good? Don't mind? Here, have some bokashi to take home. Just sprinkle that on, and there you go. Heather, you said you didn't want to smell this earlier.
Can't smell a thing. Oh.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Very fresh. Yeah, so if you're one of these people who likes to store waste all winter long, this is a way to do it where it's not going to cause you too much problems. Although then you don't get the opportunity to meet your neighbors. So it's not really a community building thing like a stinky compost bin can be. But we know now how to correct that, so we're all good. By far the easiest way to reduce waste is through grass cycling. More than half of Edmonton residents now leave their grass clippings on the lawn to break down and fertilize soil naturally. It's easier than bagging and will save you a lot of time and money. It makes your grass greener, and the added carbon improves the soil. But the real impact of grass cycling comes with reduced transportation and processing of all that fresh green material. Last June, after several weeks of rain, the organic processing line at the Edmonton Waste Management Centre received rather more grass clippings than usual, which had a big impact on hauling and processing time and energy consumption and worker safety and odor management. Think of how one bag of grass clippings smells after a couple days, and you can imagine what our workers and residents downwind were dealing with here. Happily, we got it all cleaned up very quickly. And meanwhile, when the grass clippings were left on the lawn, today those lawns are benefiting from the added nutrients. In summer, up to 50% of your waste can be grass. Not collecting it means less energy is used to transport and processing that waste, fewer greenhouse gas emissions are produced, and it allows for more capacity at our processing facilities. If you're curious to see Edmonton Waste Management Centre in person, we're offering tours in 1 month when Edmonton celebrates Waste Reduction Week. Now, to book your spot on the tour, call our Customer Support Centre or get more details by calling 311. The tours are always popular and a lot of fun. And with all the building and expansion going on out at the Waste Management Centre, they're sure to fill up quite quickly. Composting Awareness Week is just one of the many opportunities every year when we take a moment to consider our individual impacts, both environmentally and economically. And then we take steps towards a smaller footprint. These activities can be a jumping off point for families who can then set goals and work together. But they're often just something that we do once a year, and that's fine. Don't doubt for a moment the impact that even one small action has. When you take one step, remember that you are 1 in a million, and that a million small steps make a huge impact. In a great city, every effort from every citizen is important. Council has set some pretty high targets, but it's each one of us that makes the changes needed to keep us on top. It's residents' efforts at home, in our schools and workplaces, and even on the streets that keep Edmonton consistently high in the ranking of Canadians' most sustainable cities. Together, we work towards goals of environmental protection and sustainability, as well as livability and prosperity. A great city doesn't just happen. We need to act. We need to have a plan to get there. As our youth look towards their future, they also look to us to model best practices and lead the way. Edmontonians can be proud of our achievements and our leadership within Alberta and around the world, but especially at home, where one small turn of a shovel can really start to build a better world. There are as many ways to compost as there are reasons to compost. If you're not yet among the hundreds of thousands of Edmontonians who compost and grass cycle, give it a try. There's no wrong way to compost, as long as you do your best, and remember that every effort makes Edmonton a more vibrant and sustainable city. Thanks very much for your time, for coming and listening today. Have a wonderful Compost Awareness Week.